Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make, budget friendly, and delicious. So if you're looking for some weeknight meal ideas for your family, just keep watching. For dinner this first night, I made salmon sliders, and I've shared this before on my channel, but it's been several months ago, but I'll quickly walk you through how I made them tonight. I saw this on Instagram. The lady's name is Kimmy Creations. I'll have it linked down in the description box below for you. Here's what I'm going to use for the sliders. I have some slider buns. These are the Pepperidge Farm Sweet Hawaiian ones. I have some salmon, of course, and then I've got some lettuce and tomato. And then for the seasoning on the salmon, you can use whatever you like. I'm going to use this Kinder's Brown Sugar Garlic and then some of the Auntie Nono's seafood seasoning. So all I did was season both sides of the salmon, and then I cooked it on about medium-high heat. I did cut the salmon into sizes that, would fit on a slider bun, and I just cooked them until the salmon was done to our liking, and then I'm going to set those aside, and I also quickly toasted up the buns. The sauce for the sliders is super easy. It's just 2 ingredients, mayonnaise and sweet chili sauce. You just combine the two together, and I like to pop it into the refrigerator while I'm cooking up the sliders. I'm going to keep the sides super simple tonight. I've got these crispy green beans from Bird's Eye. If you've ever had the crispy green bean fries from TGI Fridays, these taste exactly like that. They're so good. I like to cook them in the air fryer. And then I have this sweet kale chopped salad kit. So I just mixed up the kale salad kit and then the green bean fries. Like I said, I like to cook them in the air fryer. I cooked them at 400 degrees for I think maybe 10 minutes. I shook them halfway through. You just want to make sure they're warm all the way through and golden brown and crispy. Here are the plates. We've got the salad, the green bean fries, and then for the sliders, all I did was place a piece of the salmon on the bottom bun, add some lettuce, sliced tomato, and some of that sweet chili mayonnaise, and this was a yummy and super quick and easy dinner. For dinner the next night, I had a new recipe on the meal plan that I wanted to try, which was a pasta carbonara with scallops. But when it came time to make it, I don't know if this will make sense or not, but I've never made a carbonara before, and I know it can be kind of finicky. I've heard, people say if you don't do it right, you can scramble the eggs and everything. And when it came time to make dinner, I just didn't feel like taking the risk, if that made sense. So I decided to just make some Alfredo sauce instead. I had everything on hand. I've said this before. If you've been with me for a while, you've heard me say this. If you've never made your own homemade Alfredo sauce, you got to give it a try. It is so easy, and it is so much better than the jarred. And I'm not above using the jarred. I'll use the jarred. But homemade is so, so good. So I'll leave a recipe in the description box below for you. Let me walk you through how to do this. So first up, I had this package of pancetta that I'd gotten on markdown at Kroger. I thawed it. So I'm going to place it in this skillet, and I cooked it on about medium-low, medium heat until the pancetta was crispy. You could also use bacon for this, but if you don't want to use any bacon or pancetta at all, you can just melt some butter in the skillet. Once your butter has melted, or in this case, the pancetta is crispy, we're going to add in some minced garlic, give that a stir, and cook that for about 30 seconds. Next, we're going to add in the heavy whipping cream. Now, I was just a little shy on the heavy whipping cream, so I used some of this plant-based cream, and it was just maybe 2 tablespoons of the plant-based cream. But I'm going to give that a stir and then simmer that for about 5 minutes until the mixture thickens up. I'm adding in some grated Parmesan cheese, and then I like quite a bit of black pepper in my Alfredo sauce. I tasted it at this point and didn't feel like it needed any salt at all between the cheese and the pancetta. So now I'm going to add in my vegetables. I've got some asparagus. I just chopped it into bite-sized pieces. I'm going to add that and then some frozen peas. Give that a stir, and now it's time to add in the pasta. I've just got some fettuccine noodles that I cooked in some salted water. I did reserve some of the water from the pasta, and that's what I'm adding in this Krabby Patty cup. And then once I've given that a really good stir, the Alfredo is done. This is what it looked like when it was all ready. Now, you could totally eat it just like that. You could add in some grilled chicken or shrimp. I have some scallops from my freezer that I needed to use up. So I salt and peppered the first side of the scallops. I've got this skillet on high heat with a little bit of oil in it. Once the skillet and oil were hot, I'm going to add the scallops and then season the top side with salt and pepper. Scallops don't take very long at all to cook. You just cook them for maybe a minute or two on each side, and then I'm going to remove them to a plate. And this is what they look like once they were done. And these were so good. They were like butter. Now, to go along with this, I wanted some garlic bread, but I had a couple of those sweet Hawaiian slider buns left over. And so I just decided to make some garlic bread out of that. Just took some melted butter, added some garlic powder, parsley, brushed it on the slider buns, and then baked it in the oven until they were toasted. And here is a picture of my plate. I have some of the pasta, the scallops, and the garlic bread. Gary ate after he got home from the gym, so he had the same thing I did, just a little bit more, and this was so good. The next day, I got a hankering for Sloppy Joe's, and I was out running errands at Target, and so I picked up some of this ground beef. It was on sale so that I could make the Sloppy Joe's. Now, I'm following the Pioneer Woman's recipe. I did have the recipe. It, of course, will be linked below. I've got this ground beef. I'm going to add some salt and pepper, and then using the meat chopper, I'm going to chop it up and just cook it until it is brown, along with some vegetables. So in this, I've got some diced onions and bell peppers. So I'm going to add that to the ground beef and then take my little spoon, mix it up, and then, like I said, just cook it until the meat is brown. Now, if you are using a ground beef with more fat content, you will want to drain the fat off of it. But this was pretty lean. So once it's brown, I'm going to add in the minced garlic, give that a stir. And then the Pioneer Woman's recipe says that tomato paste is optional, but I like to add it, if I have it on hand, which I normally have these tubes on hand. So I added the tomato paste, gave it a stir, and cooked it for a couple minutes. And then we're going to add the remaining ingredients, which is some ketchup, followed by some water. And then the recipe from the Pioneer Woman says that you can use hot sauce, but I never add hot sauce. I mean, you could if you wanted to. Once I've added the water, I'm going to give that a stir, and then we're going to add in the seasoning. So we're going to add in chili powder, dry mustard, salt and pepper. Now, you could also add in garlic powder, onion powder, crushed red pepper flakes if you want to give it a little spice. But I actually like her recipe as is. I think it's delicious. Now we're going to add in some Worcestershire sauce, followed by brown sugar. And you can totally do the brown sugar to taste. You could also use a brown sugar substitute if you wanted. I'm going to give that a really good mix, and then that's pretty much it. You're just going to simmer this for about 10 to 15 minutes or so. This is what it looked like when it was done. As you can see, it thickens up, and of course, as always, give it a taste and adjust the seasonings to your taste. Now, I have these brioche buns. I picked these up at Target. Honestly, I just grabbed these because this was the only 4-pack of buns that I could find, so I'm going to toast those up in the air fryer. I am going to do some tater tots on the side. So here I've got some frozen tater tots, and I'm just going to season them with some of the Steak and Shake seasoning. I like to spray my tater tots with a little bit of cooking spray and then add the seasoning on. I feel like when the tater tots or French fries are frozen, a lot of times I feel like the seasoning doesn't stick to them. So I like to give them a little spray with that cooking spray. I feel like the seasoning sticks to them, and it also kind of helps them crisp up in the air fryer. But I just cooked these in the air fryer again at 400 for about maybe 12 minutes or so until they're golden brown. All right, here is a picture of my plate. Gary ate after I did. He had a meeting this evening. I forgot to get a picture of his plate, but it was literally the exact same thing, except he likes cheese on his Sloppy Joes. So I just took the toasted bun, added some of the Sloppy Joe mixture, and then we've got the tater tots and the ketchup. So good. And best thing, we had leftovers, which I had for lunch the next day, and they were even better the next day. For dinner the next night, I tried a new recipe for Greek chicken thighs. Check the description box below for the recipe. Here is what I'm going to use for the marinade for the chicken. I've got salt and pepper, dried oregano, dried thyme, Dijon mustard, olive oil, some lemon, and then minced garlic. And I'm sorry, I've got 2 things of pepper here, but I only used 1. And then I have a package of chicken thighs. You could use chicken breasts, you could do drumsticks, whatever you prefer. But all I'm going to do is mix up the marinade and add that along with the chicken thighs to a Ziploc bag. You can marinate this for as little as 30 minutes or a couple hours. I think I did about 3 hours. Once the chicken is marinated, you are going to place the chicken breast and the marinade into a baking dish and bake this at 375 degrees for about 25 minutes. Flip your chicken over, cook it for another 25 minutes or so until the chicken is at least 165, 175 degrees internal temperature. I did broil the chicken for maybe 3 or 4 minutes to get that skin nice and golden brown on top. And then I took the leftover marinade that was in the dish and brushed it on top of the chicken. Now, while the chicken is cooking, for one of the sides, I decided to do a salad, and I wanted to try a recipe for a hummus vinaigrette that I saw on Instagram. The lady's name, I believe, is Ash Loves Condiments. So to this is like a personal size blender, like for smoothies and stuff like that, but I find it's perfect for dressings. I'm going to add in some olive oil, followed by balsamic vinegar. Next, I'm adding some salt and pepper, fresh lemon juice. Next, some garlic. I didn't have any fresh, but I have the jarred garlic, so I'm going to use that. Now we're going to add in the Dijon mustard, grated Parmesan cheese, and I had some left over from making the homemade Alfredo sauce. I'd grated this myself, but I mean, really, you could just use the stuff in the jar. Now I'm going to add in some Italian seasoning. And last but not least, we of course need some hummus for our hummus vinaigrette. You can use whatever brand, whatever flavor you want. I decided to stick with just the traditional flavor, and the Boar's Head was on sale at Kroger this week, so that's the brand that I got. So once I've got all of that added, I'm just going to whiz this up a little bit until it is smooth. This is what it looked like when it was done. You can thin this out with some water if you need to, and then give it a taste. Adjust the seasonings to your taste. You can add more lemon juice, more salt, whatever you feel like it needs. For the other side, I'm going to do some roasted Greek potatoes. I made these once before and they were so good, I couldn't wait to make them again. Here I've got some red potatoes. I washed them really well. I'm going to cut them in half, and then I cut each half into wedge shapes. I'm going to add those to a bowl. Once I've got all of my potatoes cut up, and I just kind of loosely followed the recipe. Of course, it'll be linked in the description box below, but I just kind of eyeballed all of the spices and, the amounts of everything. So to those sliced up potatoes, we're going to add some olive oil, followed by some dried rosemary, and I just used what was left of this little jar. Next, I'm going to add in some garlic powder, paprika. And a quick note, I believe the first time I made these, I used russet potatoes and they turned out delicious. So if you've got russets on hand, you can totally use those. Next, I'm going to use some dried oregano. And finally, some freshly cracked black pepper and kosher salt. Once I've added the seasonings, I'm going to give that a really good mix with a spoon. And then, so the recipe for the potatoes said to cook these at 450, but my oven was at like 350 or 375 for the chicken. And so I decided to cook these in the air fryer. I did 400 degrees for about 15 minutes, gave the basket a shake, and I cooked them for another 15 minutes or so until they were tender and golden brown. Here's what they look like when they were done, and the recipe says at this point, toss in some fresh lemon zest and give them a stir. And the first time I made these, I almost didn't add the lemon zest because I was like, I don't know, that kind of sounds weird, but don't skip the lemon zest. It is so, so good. Here is a picture of my plate Gary ate after he got home from the gym, which was basically the same thing as I had. It's just, of course, he had a little bit more. So we've got the chicken, those potato wedges, and then I had some of the Boar's Head tzatziki that I served for dipping with the potato wedges. And then for the salads, I just took some lettuce, tomato, cucumbers, some feta cheese. On Gary's salad, I added some olives and then croutons and that hummus vinaigrette. And y'all, this was delicious. That marinade on the chicken, it was so simple, but that chicken had so much flavor, and because we used the thighs, They were juicy, and oh my gosh, the chicken was delicious. And the potatoes and the tzatziki is delicious. The salad was really good. I loved the dressing. To me, the vinaigrette tasted very similar to a Caesar dressing, just with a little bit of that hummus taste. But of course, you can make that your own by using different flavors of hummus or different flavors of vinegar. But this was such a delicious dinner. It was light, it was refreshing, so good. For dinner the next night, I really didn't feel like cooking anything, so I decided to do something simple, and biscuits and gravy just sounded really good to me. Luckily, I had everything on hand. So I had this small can of refrigerated biscuits. It's perfect for just the two of us. So I'm going to cook those up according to the package instructions. And then I didn't have any like fresh breakfast sausage, but I did have these frozen turkey sausage patties. So I cooked the turkey sausage patties up in a skillet according to the package instructions. Once they were done, I removed them and then just gave them a quick chop. To that same skillet, I am going to add in some fat. Now, because I used turkey and frozen sausage on top of that, I didn't have any fat to use. So I'm going to add in some bacon grease, but you could use oil, butter, shortening, whatever kind of fat you want. Once that bacon grease was melted and the heat was on like about medium high heat, I added the sausage back in and let that cook for just a minute. And then we're going to add in the flour. Now, I've made gravy so many times, I just eyeball it. But I will try to, I'll link, I think the Pioneer Woman's recipe. I'll link that down in the description box below for you in case you need measurements to follow. I let that flour cook for a couple minutes, and then I'm going to slowly add in my milk. I just added in little bit by little bit. It's better to do it that way, one, to avoid lumps, but two, that way you don't add way too much milk that then you've got a super thin gravy. Now, I like quite a bit of black pepper in my gravy, so I'm going to add that and then some salt. Give that a whisk, and then I'm going to bring this to a simmer and then simmer this for a couple minutes, and it will get thick, and this is what it looked like. Now, gravy, as it sits, it will thicken up a little bit. So if you're like making this ahead, like while you're making other things, you may want to add in a splash of milk before you serve it up, but this is what that gravy looked like. And then, like I said, I just baked those biscuits according to the package instructions, and Gary asked me if I would mind making him a couple fried eggs, so I just made those with the yolks running. Here are the plates, so I just split the biscuits, added that gravy. Gary's got the 2 eggs. Super simple dinner, but yummy. For dinner the next night, we did a yo-yo night, or you're on your own. So I just had some leftover sloppy joes, and then I cooked up some tater tots. I did it the exact same way that I showed you previously. And then for Gary, I apologize, I forgot to get a picture of his plate, but he had eaten or ordered Papa John's earlier that week for, I think it was lunch one day. And so he just had some leftover pizza. It was their Philly cheesesteak pizza, and that was his dinner. For the last dinner in this week's video, we did a little date night. We went out for hibachi. We started out, of course, with the soup and the salad. And then for our entrees, I got the steak and shrimp. Gary got the steak, chicken and shrimp. And, of course, we had the fried rice, the vegetables, and the yum sauce. It was delicious. It was so good. But their portions are so big. I mean, I'm not complaining. You pay enough for the portions. But I ate almost half. Maybe a little less than half of what you see here, and then had the leftovers, took them home, and Gary had them that next day for lunch. All right, that is it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video, got some dinner ideas from it. If you did like the video, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.